During winter, we can watch snow falling outside the window while sitting comfortably in a warm room. A soft sofa beneath us, a thick jacket keeping our body warm, a hot drink in our hands, and the quiet sound of an electric heater nearby make the freezing world outside feel distant. The cold is still there, but we are protected from it. Now imagine removing all of those things: no warm house, no heater, no winter jacket, no blanket, no comfortable place to escape the freezing wind. This was the world ancient humans lived in. So how did people thousands of years ago survive winters that modern humans would struggle to endure without technology? For ancient humans, winter was not simply a colder season. It was a time when every decision could affect survival. A freezing night could take away body heat, a failed hunt could leave a group without enough food, and a long period of snow could hide many resources they depended on. Yet humans continued moving into colder regions where the environment seemed completely against them. They entered landscapes filled with ice and strong winds, places where many animals already had natural advantages. The strange part was that humans did not survive because their bodies were better prepared for the cold. Animals living in frozen environments often carry the perfect tools for their surroundings. Polar bears have thick fur and layers of fat that help them survive Arctic temperatures. Arctic foxes have specialized coats that protect them from freezing winds. Large animals of the Ice Age had powerful bodies built to endure harsh climates. But humans had none of these advantages. We had relatively thin skin, limited body hair, and no natural protection that could keep us warm in the same way. So why did humans survive in places where their own bodies seemed completely unprepared? The answer was not hidden inside the human body. Humans did not wait for nature to give them thicker fur or stronger bodies. Instead, they found another solution. They learned to create the things they lacked. When their skin could not protect them, they created clothing. When nature did not provide a safe place to live, they built shelters. When their bodies could not produce enough warmth, they learned to control fire. Humans survived winter by extending their abilities beyond the limits of their own biology. The first challenge was protecting the body from freezing temperatures. The animals humans hunted were not only a source of food, they were also a source of protection. Their hides and fur could become a new layer between human skin and the cold environment. Ancient people learned how to prepare animal skins, remove unwanted parts, and shape materials into useful clothing. With tools made from bone, they created needles that allowed them to sew pieces together, while animal tendons could act as strong threads. A creature without natural fur had found a way to create its own. But surviving the cold required more than simply wearing animal skins. Humans still had to find food, defend themselves, and hunt in environments where many animals were stronger and faster. Without sharp claws or powerful teeth, humans needed another way to compete. They shaped stones into cutting tools, created spears for hunting, and developed weapons that allowed them to reach animals from a safer distance. These tools did not make humans physically stronger than their prey. Instead, they allowed human hands and minds to work together as a new kind of survival system. However, even the best clothing and tools could not protect humans forever. When the sun disappeared and temperatures dropped during long winter nights, the biggest challenge was creating a place where the cold could not easily reach them. A person standing alone in a frozen landscape would quickly lose body heat to the wind and freezing air. Humans needed more than protection on their bodies. They needed protection around their bodies. Natural caves were among the first places that offered humans a safer environment. They provided shelter from strong winds, heavy snow, and dangerous animals. But humans did not simply depend on whatever nature gave them. When caves were unavailable, they learned to transform the materials around them into their own shelters. They dug into the ground, used layers of natural materials to reduce heat loss, and created spaces designed to protect small communities from the harsh conditions outside. In some of the coldest regions where trees were extremely limited, humans faced another problem. What could they use to build a shelter when wood was almost impossible to find? Their answer came from the world around them. The enormous bones and tusks of mammoths could become the structure of a home, while animal hides could cover the outside and block wind. What may look like the remains of a dead animal, to us represented something completely different to ancient humans, a source of materials that could help an entire group survive. These shelters were not created by accident. Building them required careful planning and an understanding of the environment. Humans needed to know where to place a shelter, how to arrange heavy materials, and how to keep warmth inside while blocking the cold outside. A smaller living space could preserve heat better, and layers of hides, grass, or other natural materials could provide additional insulation. They were not simply finding a place to survive winter. They were designing a place where life could continue. Surviving winter was not only about protecting the body from the cold outside. The human body itself became another challenge. When temperatures dropped, the body needed more energy to maintain its internal heat. Walking through snow, hunting in freezing landscapes, and simply staying alive required enormous amounts of fuel. For ancient humans, food was not just something that removed hunger. It was the energy that allowed them to continue fighting against the cold every single day. Winter created a difficult problem because many common sources of food became unavailable. Plants disappeared beneath frozen ground, and finding animals became more challenging as conditions became harsher. This forced humans to depend heavily on the animals they hunted. But they did not see an animal as only a piece of meat. Every part had value. The meat provided nutrition, the skin provided protection, the bones became tools, and the fat became one of the most important resources for surviving extreme cold. Fat was especially valuable because it contained a large amount of energy in a small amount of food. During freezing winters, this energy helped humans maintain body temperature and survive periods when food was difficult to find. Organs also provided important nutrients, while parts that might seem unusable today could become essential sources of survival. Ancient humans lived in a world where wasting resources could have serious consequences. A successful hunt was not only about catching an animal. It was about using everything that animal could provide. One of the most valuable hidden resources was found inside large bones. When fresh meat became limited, humans could break open heavy bones using stone tools to reach the marrow inside. This soft material contained concentrated fat and nutrients that could provide valuable energy. To modern people, using every possible part of an animal may seem extreme, but in a frozen world with unpredictable food supplies, survival depended on recognizing the value hidden in places others might ignore. Preparing for winter also meant thinking about the future. Ancient humans could not simply walk into a store when food became scarce. They had to prepare before the harshest conditions arrived. They stored resources, preserved meat, and used the natural freezing environment to help protect their food. Survival depended on planning ahead, understanding seasonal changes, and remembering the lessons learned from previous winters. The ability to prepare for a problem before it appeared became another powerful advantage of the human species. Even with warm clothing, strong shelters, and enough food, ancient humans still faced one of the most dangerous challenges of winter: maintaining warmth through long freezing nights. The human body could only produce a limited amount of heat, and the cold environment constantly tried to take it away. This made fire one of the most important tools in human survival. Fire allowed people to create warmth instead of depending only on what their own bodies could provide. The importance of fire went far beyond keeping people warm. It changed almost every part of human life. Fire allowed humans to cook food, making it easier to consume and gain energy. It provided light during the long darkness of winter nights. It created a safer space by reducing the threat of some predators approaching camps. Inside a shelter surrounded by ice and darkness, a small flame represented something much larger than heat. It represented safety. But keeping a fire alive in harsh winter environments was not always simple. In places where trees were limited or completely absent, finding fuel could become another survival challenge. Humans had to carefully collect and protect anything that could maintain a flame. They used available resources around them, including dried plant materials, animal remains, and other sources of fuel when traditional wood was difficult to obtain. Creating fire was only the beginning. The real challenge was making sure the fire survived. Around the fire, ancient humans created something that was just as important as warmth: a place for learning. While sitting together, older members of the group could teach younger people how to hunt, make tools, identify useful resources, and survive dangerous situations. Knowledge that might have taken one person an entire lifetime to discover could be passed to the next generation. The fire did not only protect human bodies from the cold, it helped protect human knowledge from being lost. This ability to share knowledge created a survival advantage that no animal could easily match. A young human did not need to discover everything from the beginning. They inherited the experience of those who lived before them. They learned where to find food, how to build shelters, how to prepare clothing, and how to survive the changing seasons. Human survival was not built on one invention or one person's ability. It was built on thousands of lessons collected and shared over generations. However, the greatest survival method ancient humans developed was not a tool, a shelter, or a source of heat. It was their ability to survive together. A single person facing an ice age winter would have been extremely vulnerable. Finding food, maintaining fire, building shelters, and protecting against danger required more than individual strength. Human groups survived because they worked together. Each person contributed something important, whether through hunting, preparing resources, caring for children, or supporting members who could no longer do everything alone. Cooperation allowed humans to overcome a weakness that could have destroyed them. Unlike many animals, humans were not born with everything needed to survive. A child needed years of learning before becoming independent. Older members of the group carried valuable experiences that could not be replaced. By living together, humans created a system where knowledge, skills, and survival strategies could continue even when individual people were gone. The strength of humanity came from many minds working together across generations. Looking back at ancient humans, their survival methods may seem extreme. They wore the skins of hunted animals to create protection their bodies never evolved to have. They built shelters from earth, plants, hides, and even the bones of giant animals. They searched for every possible source of energy, maintained fire through freezing nights, and depended on one another when the environment became too dangerous. These were not random actions. They were solutions created by people who understood that survival required adaptation. Today, winter can often be controlled with a simple switch, a warm jacket, and a comfortable home. But thousands of years ago, humans faced the same cold with almost none of the protection we rely on today. They survived not because they had the strongest bodies or the best natural defenses, but because they learned to create what they lacked. They turned animal skins into clothing, bones into shelters, fire into warmth, and knowledge into survival. The harsh winters of the past did not erase humanity. They revealed the ability that allowed humans to survive almost anywhere, the power to imagine, create, and adapt.